Hey guys, how y'all doing? Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon everyone around the world. Welcome back to another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Big Mom, the brand new deck profile that we're going to showcase on this channel here, let alone a couple of nice deck boxes in which you guys should definitely get your hands on if you're able to. I will leave the link down in the description. Keep in mind, I'm not sponsored by this by any means whatsoever. They reached out to me, they wanted to know if I wanted a couple of these. I said yes, therefore today's showcase is a Big Mom deck box, which is phenomenal. I know there's a lot of yellow players out there in which might want to get their hands on this before it's all gone. It is very, very cool. We got General Smoothie here on this side. You got the Big Mom's logo here on the main front, or Jolly Roger, and you have Katakuri right on this side as well. Now we do have other boxes as well. We have Doflamingo, which is really cool. I showcased this earlier. Doflamingo here on this side with his Jolly Roger here in the middle. And then you got yourself Doflamingo on this side as well. They're really, really cool. They do have like a little velvety insert, which is nice. Well, not velvety. I want to say like suede, but it's very neat. There's a lot of space. And then you got yourself Whitebeard as well. Whitebeard on this side. Got his Jolly Roger here, and you have Whitebeard and Ace, which is really nice. Now, without further ado, let's dive into this deck profile with Big Mom. This is how I like to play yellow, and this is what's been working for me in my locals here and our little championships and tournaments that we have around here where I'm at. So we're gonna dive into this without further ado. We have 4 puddings here. These are essential 1-drops that you need to have in Big Mom and or category. Both decks are a little bit different, but both decks run the exact same. You need 4 of pudding. This is your searcher, allows you to go through your deck and find any Big Mom pirate. You get 4 cards though off the top instead of 5 like you know, some of Zoro's and Nami and all that sort of thing. This is very, very essential for this deck. Allows your engine to get going. We'll dive into your 2K counters, which in this deck we run 8. I can do 12, you can do 12, you can do 10. Right now I've been doing 8 and it's working out for me. Heck, I went to locals this weekend and I only ran 4 actually 2K counters. I know, crazy. But in any case, you got yourself your 4 Struzans, which this card is essential in the metagame right now, especially when you're playing against Zoro and Law. This allows you to pop one drops, you know, like your Bonnies, your Veggies, all those sort of things. Your Sunny Coons, allows you to get rid of them if you need to, especially when you need to go on the attack and or make the board smaller for Law, because you know they like going wide. And then you go ahead and take yourself 4 Sanjis. This card is phenomenal, especially if you're going your first turn as Big Mom and or Katakuri, because you can drop this on your first turn and it allows you to start cycling your life. Now you don't necessarily, it's not necessarily Big Mom's effect, you know, where she when you get down to 3 life you can take a card and then put a card back. This allows you to take a card from top of your deck, put it into your life, and take one out of your life, which is really, really nice. It allows you to cycle through, if that makes sense. We take 4 of these as well for the 2Ks. We'll start off with the essentials first, in which I think everybody is running, you know what I mean, to be fair. Now, I like to take 3 copies of the 10-drop. I think the 10-drop is something you don't want to see a lot of. It's kind of like Kaido, but except for Big Mom feels so much worse to play against when they have multiple Big Moms. Like if you can drop more than 1 Big Mom at a time in a game, that you pretty much seal their fate, right, to be fair. I'm surprised this isn't limited right now. Let's just hope it doesn't get to that point. And then I run 2 of the 7-drops. This will change in the next set. The 7-drop Lin isn't really like all too amazing right now, and it's not going to be amazing at all in the next set in my opinion, because we'll be getting the 6-drop Hero Sparrow, which is a monster by the way, 8k power for a 6-drop, which is pretty good. But right now on curb, if you can drop Lin any turn after when you have 8 Dawn, it's just not worth it. So if you drop this when your 7th Dawn turn, you are pretty much doing really, really good, especially if you have enough life to drop 10-drop on the following turn, you're situated. And then we take 2 Katakuris. Now you can opt for 3, you can opt for 4. I feel like 3 is too many, and I feel like 4 definitely clogs your hand out a lot. I think 2 is that sweet spot. This allows you to cycle through cards on your opponent's side of the field, like i.e. their Law blockers, some of their Big Moms as well, because they will be playing against them. Other than that, you can also fish for your side as well. So if you have a Shirahoshi down, you can also target Shirahoshi to put this onto your life to trigger this effect yet again, which is really, really good. Or your Brulés as well. Any of your trigger cards, this is really, really good. But I think Katakuri is very solid offensively and defensively, but I only like to run 2 specifically because I think they clog your hand if you go too many. And then we'll go for some more essential cards I think you should be running. We got yourself your 4 Brulés, which this might cut down to 3. I don't necessarily use this all too much, and I hate to hard cast it from hand. I love to just play this off trigger. But if you can't, having 4 is, there's nothing wrong with having 4 in the deck. That way you can see it at least once or twice in a game off trigger. And then you run your Sparrow, excuse me, which is essential for this deck. This allows you to fish for more cards, kind of like your pudding, except for when this card drops, when he dies, you can cycle through the top 3 cards of your deck and get a Big Mom Pirates and put in your hand. So you have something, you have a play for next turn, always, with this guy. And he's a 5k body, so 2 Dawn makes him a 7k. You automatically hitting that sweet number, just being 5 alone. And then I like to run 4 Crackers. I was running 2. There's nothing wrong with running 2 Crackers. But if I run 2 Crackers, then that means like you don't see him as often in the trigger, which is fine because this card barely ever hits. But when he does, if you boost this card to 9k and you smack, right, your opponent generally doesn't let this card go off. They will drop a lot of cards from their hands to block, which is great. This is exactly what you want to do with this double attack. If you get it hit, cool. But it also gives your opponent more cards to play, which is okay at the end of the day. But I kind of just want to burn cards. And this is what I feel like I use him more for, but that's just me. The events here, what we're running, we take 3 Thunderbolts. You could opt to do 4, you could opt to do 2. I feel like 3 Thunderbolts is enough in itself. As long as you're able to see this one time on trigger stack, not trigger stack, but on your life stack, it's phenomenal. You can go ahead and blow up anything you need to, that's a 5 cost or less. Now, I never ever hard cast this from hands, depending on my board state. I like to only play this when it's out of the life. If it's in my hand, I'll cycle it into my life with Big Mom's effect or anything else that I have going on right now in the deck that allows me to do that. But other than that, you never really want to just waste your life to play a Thunderbolt unless you absolutely need it to go for game. Other than that, you kind of only want to see it out of life, if that makes sense. And then this is a tech choice. This is a card in which I've been having a lot of success with. I play with 3 Sulpocus. This card is very, very good in the early game. I mean, very good in the early game. It allows you to keep on even grounds with Zoro, with Law, any of the other decks that love to go wide and just hit you for, for numbers. This is very, very good because the object is just surviving until you get to that turn 8 or that turn 10 with Katakuri and Big Mom. As long as you have a significant amount of life, like at least 3 at that point, you're golden. Soul Focus allows you to do that. If your opponent wants to take their life, that's also allowing you to win the game, right? At the end of the day, I feel like running 4 is way too many, especially in a late game, because if your opponent has 0 life, which is often the case versus Big Mom, they will just target their life and nothing happens and this card becomes dead. So being able to see this at least twice is why I only play 3 of these. Anything else just allows for more clutter and for the effect to not be viable. And then we run 3 Shirahoshis. You can opt to do 4, but I feel like 3 is that sweet spot. You only really need to see this in Zoro and Law. Any other deck is fine if you get this off the life trigger, but other than that, I feel like running 4 kind of clumps your hand. It is a 1k block, right? 1k counter, but you never want to hard cast this either. You see what I'm saying? Once you get this versus a Zoro, maybe once or twice in a game, you should be able to actually come back and or stabilize. This card allows you to do just that, is stabilize. That's the name of the game sometimes. And now we're going to talk about our flex spots. I have 10 different flex cards that I've been running here in Big Mom, which can be opted to change how you see fit, and I will explain each one of these and why we got going on. We take 2 4-drop categories. I think this card is very staple in Big Mom. Not necessarily so much in Katakuri, but in Big Mom, where you can actually fluctuate your life cards and change how your life is and what cards are coming up. Katakuri allows you to do that as well, but also at that same point, when you're lower life than your opponent, this card gains Rush, which is phenomenal. It's another 6-drop vanilla, essentially, with no counter that's very difficult to remove for your opponent. And it's very threatening at the same time. You can also pull this off of Pudding and Pawseplays. It does not have a trigger, so you cannot grab it from your life, if that makes sense. And this is one that you guys may be a little bit confused on. But give it a shot, all right? Zeus is fantastic. It is very, very good. And I know Hera is coming up as well. in the next set, which I will be playtesting as well. I think Hera's going to be pretty solid. Zeus, on the other hand, gives you Banish. And you might not know this. If you read this effect, it says you can give a Charlotte Linlin card Banish, and or if you're playing with Prometheus, which is the same one, same counter, same effect, except for that one gives you double attack. Anyway, any Charlotte Linlin, that's your leader included, can get Banish and or double attack if you're playing with Prometheus. It is very, very good. And I feel like you are more, it's more optimal for Zeus, considering that your opponent will generally let this effect go off. Like you will be able to hit more with the Banish versus double attack, because no one wants to give you 2 lives in a turn. That's just way too much tempo swing. But Zeus, if you can get a couple Banishes off on certain decks, this can be detrimental and very, very hard for them to come back on. It is very good. And then we opt to run 2 Charlotte Operas. Now, usually you'd run like 4 of these in the previous meta when you have Whitebeard and Zora running around all the time. You know, they're still out there. But with the nerfs and stuff, you don't really have to go 4 vanillas anymore. Like, you don't have to. I just think they're very, very good. Especially, they're very difficult for your opponents to deal with, especially on their turn. They still have to put a lot of work into killing these guys and or dropping a jet pistol and all that sort of thing. That's like their whole turn. But these are very, very good beaters. And then my last 2 flex spots are Power Mochi. Now, you can change this out if you choose to, but I think Power Mochi is a little bit slept on right now. It's a 1-drop, which doesn't make it awkward by any means. The other card that we're going to be talking about is Sovereignty, which is an awkward card, especially for Big Mom and or category, considering that you're generally always out of Dawn, whether it's Big Mom 7-drop or category 8 or Big Mom 10, you're normally out of Dawn, right? To be fair, because you have 2 Dawn on your leader, you're doing her effect, you drop the 7-drop Big Mom, or you drop category, you have no more Dawn. So the only time this makes more sense to me is in the early game, because you try to survive into the late game. When it comes to the late game stages, when you're up to that Dawn count, this becomes less valuable, because now you have to sacrifice 2 Dawn to make sure you have this card ready. And most of the time your opponents are already ready for it. They know you have it. So seeing this in your life is the better option because it gives you an extra life. So in other words, if your opponent's going for game and this is in your life, you trash 2 cards and you get yourself 1 more life off top of your deck. Therefore, you might survive until next turn. So that's another reason why you can run 2 of these if you choose to, if not more. But I think Power Mochi has the same effect as Katakuri on the trigger. You draw a card and you can look at your top of your life or your opponent's life and give something 2k for the counterplay, which is very, very nice. Now, I've also been playing around with Charlotte Montdior, which is really, really good. This guy is very, very strong in Zoro and Law because it allows you to pop most of their small numbers. That way they can't really go as wide, especially hinders Law. But at the end of the day, to be fair, Law necessarily, like, you know exactly how to play against Law by now. I think a lot of people do, but if you don't and you struggle with Law, this could be pretty good for you. Just keep in mind that you will lose a life every time you play this effect, and that might not always be in your best interest as Big Mom or as Katakuri. And then a lot of people are also been running Smoothie, which I'm not a fan of this card. I'm really not. I'd rather run Charlotte Opera over Smoothie or any of the other vanilla 6Ks because I feel like they're more consistent. This is great on trigger if you can pull it off, no problem. But other than that, like, I'd rather just have the solid 6K body instead of having to get rid of a life to make this a 7K. I just rather have something different, you know what I mean? And then you have yourself Daifuku. Daifuku is very, very good. Like, it's very good. I feel like it's much better in Charlotte Katakuri, but at the same time, it does the same effect as Sanji, except for with 1 Dawn. So your 2-drop Sanji is a Daifuku, except for, you know, 1 Dawn, which is really, really good. But other than that, this has been the Big Mom deck profile that has been working for me at my locals. So hopefully you guys give it a shot and let me know what you think about it. Either way, this has been Pawseplays. I will catch you guys in the very next episode. Stay safe out there. I'll see y'all later.